Great. Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Glens Falls Water and Sewer Board meeting. It is Monday, March 3rd. There goes February. Hopefully March comes in like a lion, out like a lamb would be nice. It's a little after 2 o'clock. We start out the meeting, call this meeting to order, and we'll start out with public participation. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to weigh in? And sir, I see you here. Did you want to address the Water and Sewer Commission, or you just wanted to listen in with great intent? Very good.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Listening first time around.
Awesome. If you wish, at the end, you want to, we can definitely have public participation at the end too, if you'd like. And Peter, you'll let us know if somebody hops online and has a question for us. Great. First up, Bill Norton and his stormwater moments. Please, sir.
Yeah, so, I mean, as you can tell from every month we have some sort of stormwater money just relating to the fact that whatever you throw out or whatever you leave on the street, whether it's in your car or washing, or pesticides, fertilizers, somehow it makes it onto the street, into the storm drains, and from the storm drains it leads right into the tributaries and lakes and ponds and streams of the city. So the moral of the story is dispose of trash properly, not in the storm drains.
Right. It's funny, I'm pretty sure most people don't understand the storm drain leads right to our wastewater and into our water system.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Bill. Any questions? Billing issues. Anybody from the public want to address any? I don't think we have any old business under billing issues.
Not that I know of.
Not that we're aware of. Great. 4 is our resolutions. First up is the water and sewer minutes from February 10th, 2025. I know it's in your packet. Has everybody had a chance to look at it?
Mm-hmm.
Any questions or comments or adjustments?
Nope.
Not hearing any. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the February 10th meeting?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Second.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next up on the agenda, the resolution to approve the warrant. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at the warrant?
Yeah, I got
And
a
questions?
Yeah. On the first page, 11,000. Arcadis.
Yes.
That's monthly or just one time?
No, that's depending on where they are in the statute. I think, Jeremy, what do we have, $20,000 for Arcadis to review the grants? So that's, they have a year basically to do that, and this was their invoice at that position at the time.
And that's working on those major grants that we're apt to redo so we can submit them to the state, see if we can get any of our bigger projects funded. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And same with Wright Pierce on page 10, on bottom.
Wright Pierce is the electrical upgrade.
Yeah,
The-
that's monthly too?
That's monthly or bi-monthly, depending on when they get our invoice. That's part of that roughly almost $700,000 design. And
For the
that's-
full
that's the
electrical
billing
system?
Yep, that's coming off of that.
Okay. One more question. Page 11, on the balance, high electrical, voltage electrical, $7,000.
That's the switchgear. That's the big switchgear, the big problem that we had with the
Yeah,
switchgear.
that's $7,000.
700,000.
Oh, wow.
That was what we needed to have to make sure that we had the money in place
Yeah.
to secure the switch and everything. We had already paid them 300,000, but when we get to it, I'll go over it. It's going to be less than that.
So that
Why-
was
why
moving
is
though
it-
that into the fund, a budget for
Yes.
it, right?
Mhm.
So it's not the bill necessarily. It's moving the money from one account to the other. And so later in your package, we'll have the actual bill to
Okay.
review, Peter.
Why is it listed under disposal fees?
Because that's basically where we had the money to pay for it out of. That was the account we used the money to pay for it out of.
just the account, we moved it out of a disposal fee account and into the, a budget for it. It's where they had the rooms. Is that the right way to say it?
Okay,
Okay?
okay, thank you.
But we'll have the bill in just a little bit, and we'll be able to talk about the specifics of it.
And then, you know, that's the account we took it out of, and whatever monies we put back or something will go back into this account, because that's where we had enough cash to pay it out of for now.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Yeah? Any other questions? Do we have a motion to approve the warrant?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Under item 5 is discussions. The Bold Healthy Food Company at 140 Glen Street are regarding their grease trap. Bill?
Jeremy, in the city, we were contacted about, from this restaurant, which was nice, because usually we don't get contacted beforehand. Usually it's after we have a problem. But they contacted us to see if they needed a grease trap. I guess when the, what was it, the health department went in, someone notified them that they should contact us about a grease trap. Accordingly, they sent us some other information, and their menu, and also what they were gonna be doing there. They're gonna bring most of their food in, but they're still gonna have to, wash these trays. And so we're gonna have detergents and whatever is in these trays. Basically, they don't do any cooking on site. They just heat stuff up, I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, in the microwaves and stuff like that.
Yeah, I believe all the components that are listed on the menu are pre-prepared, and they just kind of assemble to order whatever the bowl consists of. And I asked about, there's sit-down, dine-in options where there'd be a need for dishes, or if everything was packed in a disposable container, and people throw it in the garbage when they're done. And I believe the response from the business owner or their manager was most of the serving containers are disposable, but it sounded like some of the food as it arrives off the truck in some of the bigger containers or the bulk packaging might get washed and reused. Maybe there's a deposit on those or something. So it sounds like there is some form of dishwashing going on.
And so will they, so do they have a grease trap and they need to fix it? They need to put one in?
They don't. They reached out to the city asking if they need one. Sort of a unique situation where it's no on-site cooking, no fryers, no things of that nature.
Gotcha.
There is the dishwashing component. So I think that's the discussion we wanted to have.
And I think the discussion that Jeremy and I had was that we think it'd be prudent to go ahead and have them put in a small grease trap, since they will be washing and stuff like that. Try to get it out before it becomes a problem.
Can you educate me on what that literally is? I hear that term, and I know it's a thing, but
Grease trap?
I'm a plumber, and I'm not a good one, so I don't know how to put this in. And I go to this job, and I got to put in a grease trap.
Usually what
am I
happens
doing?
is it'll have a drain line that comes into this tank that'll slow the water down, the grease will rise and stay on top, and then the drain line is lower so that all the water goes out.
Oh, okay.
And
Then they clean it out, it traps it. They clean it out
regularly, and
regularly.
they usually have a dumpster in the back that they can use it, and sometimes, they sell it to people for, biofuel.
Yeah.
I know in other areas that I worked that they had what they called AGRUs, which is automatic grease recovery units. They're the same thing, but they have like a little skimmer that continually skims it off into a little side tank. Then every night, or depending on how big the restaurant is, they have to empty that.
So is this something that you can order one up at security or wherever, and
Yeah.
put it in, between this, make a hole in the pipe and put it between the two? It's
Yeah.
relatively that plain.
as long as there's room.
Well, right,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, a lot of things have to go right, but
Yeah.
that's all it is
Yeah.
a thing that's in the middle.
And it's
Okay.
usually in the building that
Correct,
before
yeah.
it goes out?
Yes, I mean, there are other restaurants, like usually like a McDonald's or larger establishments like that, have outdoor grease traps.
Well, it's like a tank under the
They have
parking lot.
Yeah,
1,500-gallon tank or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
It's essentially a septic tank, it's just used to separate
Okay.
greases, oils, and fats, and it, like Bill said, it could range from, anywhere to a under-the-counter unit that's under the sink, and intercepts it before it leaves the building, or it could be outside the building, underground, for some of those larger establishments.
A lot of times, if you drive through the parking lots of those larger, you'll see 2 manholes. That's
Mhm.
the 2 different sections of the grease trap.
Mhm.
Oh,
They're
okay.
usually baffled. And, the first one I described under the sink is just where, the water flows through and it collects on top. That's what we call a passive grease trap. The other ones are, like I said, automatic grease recovery units or an outside grease trap. And they're sized accordingly to what size the restaurant is and things of that nature.
Okay.
And so you have no resolution, but you're made the recommendation to Dustin at Building and Codes, to reach out and ask them to put in a small grease trap? And will we keep an eye on their detergents use, or what is that?
Yeah, what the manager was looking for was some direction from the city as to whether it was gonna be required. So now that it sounds like we wanna either ask you some additional questions or go ahead and ask that to be installed, we'll make the appropriate phone calls to Building the Codes and to ownership of that restaurant, and go from there.
Okay. And are we we're not asking for a motion, but we're determining that might be the best thing to do,
I
at
would-
least ask them to
I would
go
probably
ahead?
say, if we talk to the planning board or the building department, we'd say it's the water and sewer board recommendation that they go ahead and install a grease trap. Now, if we come back in several months and they don't do it and we have plugged sewers, we may go ahead and initiate
A mandate.
a mandate or some sort of action to force them to do it.
Gotcha.
This already went in front of them, just so you know. The bold, they're done, unless they go back.
So is that, everybody agree that we ask them to make a recommendation? Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
It's going before the planning board now?
It's gone in front of the planning board and it was approved.
Yeah,
But the water and sewer, through the building and codes department, will make the recommendation they put in a small grease trap.
Do we owe them any friendly due diligence of saying, here's what we're thinking, as a municipal pleasant gesture, or is that a litigious point and just keep, it's not our job to be system engineers, it's their deal to figure it out? If I was opening a business and somebody's like, this is kind of what we'd like to see, it would feel great to be pointed in a direction and be like, check mark certified on city engineer said, or the super, or is it, well, you said this and then this happened and now I'm suing you because my basement backed up because and
Yeah.
it wasn't the thing, but they're going to say it is. And I'm not saying this against the people that own this
No,
business.
right.
Just the
Yeah.
potential general,
You're
like,
asking. Jeremy, how,
Yeah, I think,
Answer?
I think the city steers away from any consulting services. Like
Gotcha.
what, our suggestion would be that they get with a licensed plumber or a licensed engineer to spec that unit and size it appropriately.
very good. And at this point, it's just a recommendation on our behalf that they go ahead and install this. And then if we have problems down the road, we can take further action. Is that, do we have consent? It's no.
It should be a resolution.
Should be
If
a
you're doing
resolution.
recommendation as a commission, it should be
Okay.
a resolution, because it's the only thing to give
Yep.
anyone.
Would you, so would somebody like to make that resolution that we make this recommendation?
sure.
Do we have a second?
second.
All in favor?
Huh?
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Let's see, so new Bobcat skid steer received by field crew.
Yes, they took delivery of that last Tuesday.
This is ARPA money, right?
This was ARPA money.
Yep.
This is roughly just under $90,000 to buy this unit, and part of the unit was around $15,000 was a saw, pavement saw. So instead of pounding and potholing around and then excavating, they can saw cut now. They were out on Maple Street doing some work
On Wednesday.
on Wednesday. Yep.
I got to see in action.
Yeah.
Really?
Don Millington told me, and Dando told me it saved them probably an hour and a half's worth of work
Wow.
using the saw cutter rather than the hole punch.
What are we getting, like a roughly, very roughly speaking, a year out of that, or 6 months, or
Out of that unit,
out of the, like,
Cut
the
blade?
blade
Just
can't
the blade?
be anything insignificant, right? Or is it a small blade, or is it some huge?
I think it's
4-foot thing?
I think it's a 16-inch blade.
Oh, all right.
It's a big blade. And again, it's going to depend on use, and if they're cutting pavement, probably 3 to 6 months. If they're
Mhm.
cutting cement, maybe 3 months,
Yeah.
if that. Depending on what they cut.
But the unit will last longer and
Well,
they
the
just
unit's
get the
gonna
blade.
last. The problem, the ones down there, they have probably, the one that they were using, they borrowed from Public Works, because ours had broken down so bad that it wasn't fixable. So,
Mhm.
you should get a dozen years out of it.
Yeah, that's
Great.
great to hear.
And we've been in contact with the manufacturer, and it looks like we're probably going to get an extended warranty on it
Mm.
for 3 years. So,
Great.
Thank you. Electrical upgrade update. This is about regarding Peter's question.
well, that's the next one. Switch gears about
Oh,
Peters.
sorry, switch.
The electrical upgrade is the design work that
Okay,
we're
thank
continue
you.
to doing. We did go ahead and we restructured some of that so that we could go ahead. Remember, we were talking about some of the electrical instrumentation wiring that we didn't want to keep inside the MCCs, because it would have made the MCCs much larger than they are right now because of codes. Codes are much different than they were when these were first established. So we had to move some of the instrumentation wires out of them so that we could, and so they had to build a couple of different cabinets to house that. So we had roughly about $18,000 left in the initial $650, because the bid came in at $631. So there was that money, and then it carried some money in the bidding part of this project that really should have been carried in the next phase of construction management. So we were able to pay for it that way. So that was roughly about $40,000, and that's what it came out to. Well, it was $60,000. We're able to get them down a little bit and use that money to do what we needed to do. So we'll have 3 separate panels and 3 different sections of the treatment plant that'll house a lot of the instrumentation tie-ins.
And where are we at? What percentage done?
We're almost to the 90%,
Great.
and that's when they should come back in before us again, and then hopefully, well, the summertime, we should be ready to bid, depending on how we want to proceed.
Sure. Well, I think that we probably should get that when we get the upgrade completely done, and we have the estimate of how much, and I know we didn't score well on the UFC, so what I think we'll have to do is have a couple workshops where the Water and Sewer Commission talks about make some recommendations to the council to consider. Talk about bonds and talk about what's coming off, what a bond that would cover this would cost, maybe above and beyond or not, right? I know the bond that's coming off isn't that great, but there might be a bond coming off next year that's more or something.
There's 2. There's one that comes off this year, which is the smaller ESCO project, and then the larger ESCO project comes off next year.
Yeah, so it's worth looking at, you guys making some recommendations, and then for the council to consider. Okay?
Is there any relationship with suppliers that's established enough that we could say this is coming, this is in the pipeline, we're doing this, and get in line for those like 18 and 24 month lead times on big time equipment, or is that just that you can't do that until they see that we've got a work order, a bid, or whatever, the things have actually shoveled the ground?
I think initially, we need to get the design to see where we are, because right now we don't know exactly how big anything is, you know, to tell a vendor, you know, what we need. So once we get to the 90%, we may be closer to that. But again, you know, I don't know many vendors that are gonna go out on a limb, you know, when you tell them, you know, we're potentially gonna be there. Can we start ordering stuff without having the funding in place?
And I don't believe you can do that anyway without, the Common Council needs to look at the financial, they're the sole entity that, they can take our recommendations, but we have to look at that, right? We know, that from the work that we've been doing over the last, well, since my second term, that there's over $60 million worth of infrastructure that the long-term needs of this plant, this being 14 million. And we did get bond approval so that we could just apply for the grants. This being one of 4 grants, Jeremy, that we, 3 grants, one of 3. So we've got the bond resolution for it. That doesn't mean we have permission for them to go ahead and bond. It means that we had them recognize that these were the needs, had them recognize that we needed to go ahead and get this engineered so we'd know how much it costs, and then we're not at a point where we're ready to take action. They need to look at all that. They need to look at what current bonds we have. What, you know, we haven't bonded anything in 3 years, but we know we've got a small bond probably coming up when Webster Avenue is finished, the Webster Avenue project, of redoing that water and sewer stuff. Even though we got that 90%, probably 80% taken care of by the transportation improvement plan, the TIP, right? But so anyway, we've got to look at all that. So we couldn't make a commitment to somebody and place that on order, even if we'd like to. We just can't. We can, though, finish this 90%, get our numbers together, and make recommendations about the priorities, right? It does appear to me, I don't want to speak for you and the rest of the board, does appear to me that the electrical system is the most urgent of them all. But there's no current, well, because we just spent $1 million on a switchgear, right? We don't know, there might not be a major break that would change that 3 months down the road. Who knows? But anyway, one thing at a time. All you can do is you gotta. I think it's incumbent on the Water and Sewer Commission and the Common Council to look at these long term and know that that's where you're going over the next 10 to 15 years, and to be always thinking about it, so that we're never caught again with a long-term control plan of not having addressed, or what was it? How many years ago was it that we found the trees growing out of the dams? That was long before I came into city government, but we need to make sure that we're always looking at where we stand today and where we want to be, and always being a step closer and investing in our infrastructure. Probably the most important infrastructure, the largest debt of the city, is the water and sewer treatment plant. It's our greatest asset, but also our biggest liability, and we've got to always look at that long term.
As the mayor said, you know, that switchgear was the weakest link in our electrical system, but we still have, you know, the MCCs and stuff. Now it just transfers down, but basically when it's going from the switchgear, now it goes to the transformers, because they're the next aged component that is probably at the, you know, the most severely needed replacement. So that's part of this upgrade.
Yeah.
So just because we replaced the switch doesn't mean, oof, now we're good for, you know, it's just.
We can't stop,
It
but
was
the
just
same
the-
way we can't commit until we know that we got the long-term picture approved by
Yeah.
both first you and then the Common Council.
That switchgear was the weakest link at that point. Now it's moved to the transformers, and then it'll be, as we always said, with the MCCs, because they're obsolete. We can't get parts. You know, we're lucky enough that we survived to this point because we were able to rob Peter to pay Paul for pieces out of different pieces of NCCs that we weren't utilizing because the incinerator building and other areas that we weren't using.
Any other questions?
MCC being what?
Motor Control Center.
Let's see, next up is the new switchgear installation and insurance claim.
Yes, well, staff here, Chris, Christian, Jason, all involved did a masterful job in, along with the contractors, getting that switchgear in and out. I talked to several engineers and told them what they did. They couldn't believe that it was done within a week, and let alone that the switch was even available, that we could do it. So it was,
Nice.
it was a great
Achievement.
achievement by several integral parts that were able to come together and do that, because we not only used high voltage, but we used Roselle, we used a couple different vendors to come in and get this all taken care of, because it was a large endeavor and it happened rapidly. So we were very fortunate that we were only on the generators, for a week. And we were fortunate for the 6 weeks that we were without the knowing whether the switchgear was going to last or not, that it did. So we were very fortunate. Preliminary numbers, looks like we got some of the bigger numbers in, so it looks like everything's said and done, we're going to be right, probably just a little less than $800,000. We estimated $1 million. With everything coming in, it's going to be right around that $800,000, $790,000 number.
Great.
So that's where we are with that.
And will we have that final number?
Probably within a week or two. We
Okay.
got, like I said, a lot of the HV, high voltage, the big number we've got. That was, just under, what was it, it was about 725,000 of that was high voltage for the switchgear and all of their labor and all their other
Okay.
equipment and stuff. And then we had about $15,000 from fuel, and then the generators probably the rest of that number.
Okay.
So
And from that, we know we pulled $300,000, the original $300,000 was pulled out of the 2024 operating budget, that we were coming in under budget. So that we were able to spend that first amount and stay within our budget, because it was near the end of the year, and we were able to achieve that.
correct.
And then what else do you have for us?
And then as Peter looked at that $700,000 number, now it appears more like it's going to be somewhere in the $500,000 range rather than $700,000.
Right.
So that's going to go. I know the mayor said that there may be some ARPA funds available.
Yep. So I think it
So-
was about 240,000 at the end of the year, right as we were finishing out ARPA, that we had that we reallocated, because we knew that this was coming that way. So we had 300,000 that came out of the 2024 operating budget that we were going to be under budget. Make sense? Then we had another 240,000 that we were able to take out of ARPA. And so where does that leave us?
So that'll bring us to roughly $540,000 that we had available, minus the almost 800,000. So it's somewhere around $250,000. That looks like if we utilize all of that funding that we're going to need to come up with somewhere in
Okay.
that ballpark, depending on how the figures,
Right.
that we figure out. And then we'll see, we did put an insurance claim in. We've been going back and forth with the insurance company. We haven't gotten their final letter. As with any insurance company, they're trying to say, well, this is not covered, that's not covered, this is not covered. So we're working on that, trying to see, they're saying the initial equipment was aged, and there were some maintenance issues with it. We know it was 40 years old, so depreciation, so that goes into effect too. So they're looking at somewhere in the $25,000 to $50,000 range. We think it should be maybe double that or triple that. So
So if Where were we before the insurance? 250?
roughly, yeah.
Yeah, so if the insurance claim comes back and it's denied or very little, right, they can say anything from all of it to none of it, right? Knowing insurance companies in general, I'm not that familiar with this, but let's just say it's gonna be nothing, cause you can't count on insurance coming through. So current thinking is that if you agree, or you'll make a recommendation that you pull the 250,000 out of the reconstruction fund, and that so the reconstruction fund is different than, we have both a water reserve account and a sewer reserve account, right? Those we call them in general fund, we call it a fund balance, right? Some people call them rainy day funds. But separate than those, right? That's the total between your water and your sewer reserves is about $3 million, $2.9 million. Separately, you have a reconstruction fund that is collected from the communities that we provide services to, and to, do we contribute as well?
No,
No, so that reconstruction fund is an eligible use. And so what's in how much do you have in the reconstruction fund now as it stands?
about $2 million. from what I
$2 million.
understand.
So you might take 250,000 out of that reconstruction fund and use it for this, and it is an allowable.
And that's reconstruction is based on, say, a couple of years ago, we put in the gravity belt thickener. Remember, we replaced the DAF. So that's a large piece of equipment. So contractually, Queensbury is responsible for that. South Glens
Percentage.
Falls and Moreau are responsible for that. And obviously, their percentages are much lower for Moreau and South Glens Falls than it is for Queensbury. And then we make up the difference. Obviously, we make up that difference in our operating budget. So they're responsible for.
Reconstruction fund, I think it should pay all of it. Well, we got a responsibility too, but 250,000 out of 3 million, or 800,000. It should have paid more.
Well, we can look at it, but it's I guess how we want to get to the bottom line. Is that
Yeah,
basically?
sure. I think that when you get the final bill and you get the final message from the insurance company, you can all have that discussion as to where you think is most prudent. I think that you certainly, the ARPA money makes sense that we allocated it, and so that at least ought to be that out of that money. It needed to be spent by the end of the year, and I was able to do that. The 300,000 would, if you hadn't allocated it, we did allocate it. If we hadn't allocated it, that would have went into your fund, your water or sewer fund balance, right? Would have. So I think that's really up to you guys to. I wouldn't say decide. It's to recommend. You make a recommendation to the council. This is how we think is best, and so that's certainly. I believe that's within the purview, is that you say this was the total bill, this is where you could pull it from, this is your recommendation to the council, and then they decide. They quite often agree with you. I mean, 99 out of 100 times, you know more about the water and sewer funds, you know more about what's happening in the plant, so you'll make a recommendation to them. So, okay. What we did clarify is that it could come out of reconstruction fund, and we know that a certain percentage, they don't pay for it all. So if Moreau uses, I'll just make up a number, 10% of our total usage, right? Then Moreau gets billed 10% of a reconstruction item, like the gravity thickener or like this control panel. Same with Queensbury. If it's 20%, I don't honestly know what it is. I'm just making up numbers, but then we'd get a bill. We'd give them a bill for that 20%. Okay. But that's what it's for, and other than that, we're in good shape. We're a little lucky about everything. Lucky
Yeah,
that we
like
found
too
the part.
lucky on a lot of
Lucky that,
fronts.
yeah, a lot of lucky things. Lucky that we found the part. Now we've known, right? We've known since geez, my first term under Mayor Diamond, now over 10 years ago, was the first time we blew the fuse in this switchgear, right? And what struck me at the time on the council is an $11,000 fuse. And I said, well, how can that be? And they said, well, we don't make 1987 electrical components anymore. And that's when I learned, and most of the council learned, that we have a 1987 electrical system that we've been operating on. We knew it was failing. It failed again in my second term under Mayor Hall, and that was an 11,000. And this time, it's failing. And so that's why, though, because of those, that we decided to take $1 million of ARPA money to do the entire electrical engineering of this, right? And it was not full million, it was
Three-quarters.
$750,000. So
Right.
we chose to spend that money out of ARPA because we've known for well over 10 years that our electrical system is a 1987 electrical system, right? So we knew we were doing well, and then the switchgear went 2 days before Christmas. So we're lucky that we were under budget. Lucky that we have both a reconstruction fund and ARPA money to bring it down to where it is. That's good, and you guys can make the last decisions or decisions for a recommendation to the council once we have the final bills in, which should be a few weeks, maybe for the workshop, if not certainly in time for your next water and sewer meeting in April. Fair enough? When you're done with the recommendation, we'll take it to the council and get their thoughts on the matter. Okay? Great. Any other questions? I don't want to. All right. If not, Maple Street Sewer.
We had an issue on Maple Street. Dan and his crew went back out. They tried to clear it, couldn't clear it, took some pictures, got the camera down there. And that this is a 24-inch pipe that's clay, I think 4-foot sections, Jeremy?
Probably.
Yeah. So, and when they took the pictures, it instead of being round, it's oval. So it's been compacted a little, so it's all cracked. The whole top of the pipe is cracked. They think from Center Street to where, Jeremy? From manhole to manhole was roughly 500 feet.
Culvert maybe.
Culvert. So we're trying to decide whether we want to use city forces to replace that whole line. So that's what we're looking at. In order to go in, there's a lateral that's coming in. That's what started the whole issue when we started to look at it. We all know that area is one of the oldest sewage systems in the city. Clay pipe. It's lasted for a long time. Initially, that was part of the large CSO system, so it's an oversized pipe. So through the years, probably sewage, it's gotten so low, so it doesn't flow as well. So the sewage sits there and decomposes. You get hydrogen sulfide built up. It starts
Smell?
well, not as much smell as deteriorating the pipe, corroding the pipe,
Oh, I
and,
got you.
and eating away at it. And over the years, the pipe is cracking, and there's no really need to have that big of a pipe in that section. That's one of the things Jeremy and I were going to sit down today and probably talk to Dan Gerard and see what we could do. Now, it's whether we want to go ahead and utilize city forces to do that. If we do that, it ties them up from doing everything else in the city, or they could pull it off for emergency and go back. The project could take 2-3 times longer than would if we hired a contractor to do it. So we're just trying to see if we can do it. It's about, 8 feet deep, we thought?
Yeah.
So we're gonna need a trench box. It's not something that we can do without a trench box.
Maple Street from where to where?
Center, the culvert.
Brazil Center Street.
So, you come, north
Gen
Pearl,
Pack.
the next,
Gotcha.
the next right is Center,
Okay.
then you go one block, you pass Walnut on the left, and then there's Culver to the right.
And when you say replace, at times you, like on Webster, we ran a new pipe within a pipe. Is
We
that
lined
what you're
it.
talking about? You lined it. Is
No,
that,
no.
you're talking about a complete replacement?
Yeah, based on the pictures and the footage we've seen, that the
Because of the-
pipe shape is so displaced, you can't get another circle pipe in there.
Even when we lined Webster, we had to do, I think, 3 or 4 dig repairs because the offsets and the way the pipe, so they couldn't do the whole thing. But it still was cheaper to do those couple of dig repairs and do this. This line,
This would be
Doesn't-
digging
doesn't
the
have the
whole thing
option.
up, putting a new pipe in, and closing it down. And how long would it take our crews to roughly do it?
I think Dan estimated if they were left undisturbed without any other jobs to run to, it could take 4 weeks or better.
And how much of that, if we were to use an outside contractor to run that pipe, would that be in your current budget, in the water and sewer budget?
we have some money for outside contractors. We'd have to get an estimate from a contractor how much that would be.
Right.
Again, and that, he'd have to know, if we want to go with a 24 again, or we want to downsize that to a 16 or a
Right.
12-inch line. And basically, we could go back with the 24 because we use PVC. We don't have to worry about the gases, number one, and we don't have to worry about the line will flow a lot easier, just a lot smoother.
Right. And, but again, you do these on a regular basis. It's only 3rd of March. So would this wouldn't be blowing a hole in your budget. You replace these, well, we have breaks all the time. So
Usually not
not like
of the
this
magnitude
big.
of 500 feet.
No, I agree. So maybe when you come back to the board, talk about that, what this does to your budget, what it doesn't do to the budget,
Mhm.
and that will help us to decide. Okay?
Well, yeah, we'll try and get all that information. Right now, I think everything's under control. Dan has it plated. He has it coned off right now, so in case anybody gets any phone calls. It's something that we know of and we're looking at.
How do you place 500 feet? There was 24 here, 24 there, and in between you got a 60.
Well, that's a great question. The incoming line to that 24 is only 10 inch.
Oh,
It starts right there, 24, and then continues.
wow.
And it's in manholes. So if we're gonna replace the 500-foot section, it's between 2 manholes. It's not like we're gonna go from 24 to 10
12.
to back to 24.
Okay.
We're gonna replace that whole section. On the other side of the manhole, I think it's still 24, all the way down to the treatment facility.
Oh.
And that may be something that we look at that isn't in bad shape. We may be able to line that, depending
Maybe-
on the quality
maybe
of
have-
that line.
Maybe you have to replace that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Hopefully, if that's in good enough shape, we can go ahead and line that. It's much cheaper, and it's,
Oh, right, yeah.
It's cheaper in the long run, not only because of the digging, but also because of the inconvenience of the people on the street. You can line that section in a day.
Do you need to make a decision of this between now and the workshop in 2 weeks?
I don't believe so. Do you, Jeremy? I could say no now and tomorrow that, it could collapse, so.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's relatively stable with the steel road plates over the hole, but, we get another plow, another storm event that requires some plowing. I know DPW is aware of it, they're not gonna avoid it, but I think it's a one-lane traffic situation at the moment. So I think, the sooner the decision can be made, the better. Maybe we can stretch it out to the workshop.
Sure. Well, and I just think that you really do need to then think about how much it'd cost if we do it in-house, how much it'd cost if we don't, and what that does to your budget, I think is what makes your decision, right? Or helps make it, right? And then, okay, that's it. Anybody else have any questions? Thank you for the heads up. Maple Street, right? That's where if we're gonna get the call, it's gonna be about Maple. All right. Monthly reports, we've got.
I forgot one.
Oh, sorry.
That
Fire hydrant.
Fire hydrant usage by Wolverine Hydro X.
Yeah, they were coming in, they were gonna ask to use our hydrant. They've got a job over in Fort Edward. They came in, they gave Adam a $500 check. They were gonna utilize our hydrant. Adam just wanted to know, because they were gonna use it so much, they were gonna take a lot of water, if the 500 was enough. So Adam sent me an email, he sent me the voicemail. A couple days I got back to them, they had found another place to get water, so this was already on the agenda before
Okay.
that. So they're utilizing, I guess, Wilton somewhere over there, because that's closer to where they're disposing of it, so.
Right. What they want to use it for? What do they do?
Doing some sort of hydro excavation and,
Yeah, I think the current water license that's in effect for contractors to use, that's more geared toward the
Landscapers.
landscapers that come in. They might have 100 or 200 gallon tank on their pickup truck that they'll go around and water flowers with.
Sure.
In this instance, I had I think 2 back trucks, probably
Yeah.
1,000 gallon capacity each, and they were looking to
Several loads a day.
several thousand gallons of water each day for a period of 2 months. So we just wanted to look at that and make sure, they were contributing their share. They wouldn't pull that volume of water.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Seems like a drop a hose in the river situation rather than get it out of a hydrant, doesn't it? Do people not do that anymore?
Drop a hose in the river?
Not if DEC's around.
Oh, you can't suck out? Oh.
Okay, so we
No,
have
but
nothing to.
he did, like I said, he came in and he used, 1,000 gallons of water, and we charged him $500. That's a lot of money, so we may decide to give him a little bit back.
Okay. And if so, you'll bring it in front of the board for
I'll
their
let them know,
approval
yeah.
at the next. Great. Monthly reports attached.
Yeah, I think, because of last month's meeting, they pushed a week, the workshop was canceled, so nobody got the reports from the dams or the water plant or the wastewater treatment plant. I don't know if anybody has questions.
Anybody any questions?
Just the dam cracking, the Keenan
Yeah, it's not the dam, it's the intake.
intake.
There seems to be some sort of leak, and you can't really tell because of the ice and the way, so it could be groundwater, we're not sure. But it seemed to be when we lowered the intake that it stopped. We lowered the intake about 4 feet, and it seems to have stopped. So we won't really know exactly what it is until everything thaws and we get all of the ice pack and the snow pack out. But it is an intake, and I know, it's the 3 years that I've been here, we've been constantly talking about the goodnight coatings of the intakes. It's a huge expense at some point that the city's gonna have to decide what way we wanna go.
Mhm.
Do we wanna continue to repair them and keep maybe, kicking the can down the street until they really need to be re-gunnited?
Gunnated?
It's something like, it's a bituminous coating over the intakes. So it's almost, our intakes are like 3 or 4 sized Olympic pools. And that's where we have what we call a beer can screen.
Mhm.
That's where all the water comes that goes to the treatment filter. We go from the reservoirs to these intakes, from these intakes to Upper Junction,
Yep.
and then it flows right to the water filtration plant.
Okay.
So
We'll know more in the spring?
we'll know more hopefully by this time next month. We're hoping that this warmer weather and some of this rain that's supposed to be coming does a lot of melting for us, and we get to see exactly where we're hoping it could be as easy as, just a quick repair, but sooner or later, these things are gonna materialize, because these, intakes need to be regunite, and I don't think they have been for probably, 15, 16 years, and probably should be done every 8 to 10, so.
Yeah, I was thinking about that in previous conversations about it, and then looking at how hard we've been focusing down here, and all the justified, surely, but
Yeah.
it's like, lucky us, we've got another punch coming on the other cheek on the supply side in the way of
Sure.
those intakes.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing, we've done a lot of work here.
Yeah.
We did a lot of work at the water treatment plant too. We
Yeah.
rebuilt every one of those filters. I mean, we spent almost 1.6 million out of the ARPA funding
Mhm.
at that treatment facility. So, we were fortunate that we were able to pick those,
Yeah,
what needed it, utmost first.
yep,
And
absolutely.
then, as the mayor said, we have those 3 big projects out there, the electrical upgrade, the distribution system in the city, and that's not even looking at these intakes and things of this, like
Mhm.
this.
Great.
Yeah.
Any other questions about those reports? Personnel, I don't believe we got a personnel issue.
Nope.
No executive session that I'm aware of. Next meeting date is Monday, St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. And
That's the workshop.
it's the workshop. And then the regular sewer board meeting on Monday, April 7th. Same bat time, same bat channel. Any other comments, questions? Not hearing it? Yes?
It would be a legal holiday.
I'm with you. A legal month, holiday month, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you can't drink until after 2 o'clock.
Can't drink till after 2 o'clock. Yes, that's right. Well, I may not be here. No, I'm just teasing. It's great. Thank you, guys. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you very much.